Minasan, konnichiwa. Nico here, formerly of the Road to Japan podcast, and now just a channel on YouTube. As you might guess, it's been a really long time since I've done any kind of video. As you can notice, I am a little dressed up, and I will get to why that is in just a moment. If anything, that's probably inspiration as to why I'm doing a video right now. Wow, yeah, there's so much that has happened since the last video that I did, which I think was, May? End of spring semester last year? For those that don't know, it is February 3rd, 2018. So not only have I not done a video in the last year of 2017, now I'm doing my first video of 2018. So let's see what has happened since then. I'm going to try and keep this short and brief, because basically the reason I'm dressed up is more or less what I really want to talk about, excuse me. But yeah, there's still a lot that has happened in the last, almost 8-10 months, something like that. A lot of big changes. For one, I went through my summer semester and did my 300 level courses. I finished those up and got decent grades in those classes. And then all I had left was one more semester, which was fall semester. And I only had 2 classes. And if you guys follow me on Twitter, if you follow my personal account, you might have seen some of the homework I was doing, because one of the classes was called game culture, and I started kind of getting pretty serious with my Twitch channel because I was able to stream my homework there. So if you want, you can go to twitch.tv/project2501 and you can look at the collections there. And if you're specifically curious about the homework, there is a collection on the page called homework parentheses game culture. So yeah, you're welcome to check that out. Let me know in the comments if you need links or anything like that. But yeah, so that was it. I had game culture, which was a kind of a course centered sort of around gaming, and then I also had a film studies class. So my homework last semester was just playing games and watching movies. I mean, there was more to it than that. There was obviously a lot of writing, since both of them were included in the English umbrella. But yeah, so I did those classes, and that's it. I'm done with school. I graduated. I went through commencement. I don't have the picture set up to show you guys. But there's a picture, me in my cap and gown, and I've got my my honor cords for my major. And yeah, I graduated. I received an email just a few weeks ago, or has it been that long? I'm not even sure if it's been that long yet. But recently I received an email from the university saying that they have conferred my credits, which means that my degree essentially was approved. So that means the degree is being processed, or whatever you want to call it. And at this point, I think it's probably going to be about 4 weeks or so. And then I'll get the degree itself in the mail. So, I mean, another milestone has been accomplished. But getting more or less to what this is all about. The other thing I did during the last semester was, in October, applications for the JET program opened up, and I sent in my application, which was a horrendous 3 to 4 weeks, because I was dealing with my studies for the 2 classes, and I was dealing with making sure everything was good to go for my application. So that included a pretty lengthy questionnaire, just asking about, things about me. And on top of that, there's also an essay you have to write, a 2-page essay, basically explaining, why Japan, what you have to offer to the JET program, and discussion of any teaching experience that you might have, not necessarily in the classroom. So I kind of talked about training coworkers throughout my manufacturing career. So but if this wasn't any indication, I received a message. When did I receive that? I think it was right the first full week after the holidays were done. So I think that would have put us at I think it was like a Tuesday or something last month. Would have been like, about the 9th of January, I'm going to say. But around that time, I received a message saying that I was selected to move up to the next step, which was the interview. And the interview was today. So I actually just got home probably about 15 minutes ago. My day started at 7:30 this morning, and it is just now struck 10 p.m. So it was a very long ordeal. Most of my day was traveling, because where I live in Wisconsin, they don't have a embassy or consulate here for Japan. So I had to actually travel down south to Chicago. And it was an interesting trip, but in all honesty, the whole day was just a blur. Just because, like, trying to make sure I stuck to my schedule. Because that's the other thing that I haven't mentioned. I don't have a car anymore. I guess that was a pretty big event. But yeah, towards the end of last summer, I got rid of my car. So I donated it to a radio station because it literally broke down in a parking lot when I was trying to go grocery shopping. And that was pretty much my last straw with that car, because it was just nothing but a money pit. So I decided just to leave it there. I made arrangements for it to be donated, and then it was picked up probably less than a week later, I think. So, I got a little bit of a tax write-off for that, which that's the next step as to my plans. Is I gotta go do my taxes, which is going to involve a lot of questions, since I'm really hopeful that I'll be living in another country before the end of the year. But that aside, so now I don't have a car, which means as far as my commute to work, I'm riding a bike. And it's not even a motorized bike, which was fine in the summer, and it's difficult in the winter, to say the least, but not impossible. Everyone thinks that I'm kind of nuts for riding a bike in Wisconsin winter weather. And I mean, it is difficult, as I already mentioned. It's not easy, but it is doable. And thankfully, my bike ride's only like about 20 minutes or so. But anyway, enough of that. So because I don't have a car, I had to seek out alternate methods of travel to get down to Chicago. I originally planned on renting a car just for the weekend, and decided against that. And instead, I purchased a ticket from Greyhound, because I rode Greyhound years and years ago, way back in the day, way before cell phones and the internet was a big deal. And I mean, just showing my age at that point. But the ticket was really cheap. All I had to do was just get myself down to the bus station to make the bus departure on time. So I grabbed some Ubers to and from the stations, and then to the embassy. Once I arrived in Chicago, I probably spent close to $100 or more just on today because of all the travel arrangements. I did not realize that Uber was going to be double at night. So yeah, when I was getting ready to leave the Milwaukee station to come back home, I was like, holy crap, yeah, that fare is huge. But I guess, to be fair, I got a ride in an Escalade, so it was a premium vehicle, so take that with what you will. Now, about the interview itself, I can't really reveal too much about the interview because they actually send you a document about a week or two before your interview date. And there's actually two documents. One's a interview voucher, which actually I have a copy of it. Just like, looks like this. You have to stick a picture here on the square, and then you cut on the dotted line, and that's what you hand to them. But there is also a release form, and it's actually 2 pages, and you have to check all these I agrees and then sign and date it. And one of the things you're acknowledging on there is that you are not to discuss the contents of the jet interview. Now, I'll put it this way. I'm not going to go into specifics about my interview, but needless to say, if you've looked up other videos, especially recent ones that talk about the interview, it's relatively the same. There are going to be differences, and I think the differences depend on the information that you put in your application. So, like for me, well, actually, I think everyone gets like a little Japanese section, usually towards the end. I know I did. And I think at the beginning of the interview, they ask if you speak Japanese. And I said, yeah, I speak a little. And then the gentleman, who was a native Japanese individual, I think he worked for the consulate. So he's based out of Chicago, but I'm guessing he grew up in Japan. I could be wrong about that. But he fired off a few questions at me in Japanese, and I would say that I really need to work on my Japanese, because they were relatively basic questions like, where do I live? Where do I want to travel? Things like, real basic stuff. Probably things that if I had just been fresh out of my Japanese 101 class that I took probably almost 20 years ago, I'd have done just fine. But as someone that's only been learning off and on for the last 10 years or so, I was a bit rusty. Plus, like, you're on the spot, and the way they have it set up is it's a big room, and it's not that you and the interviewers are isolated. They're actually are just like these divider barriers. So I was the first panel. There was, I think, a series of 4 panels. And behind the divider of my panel was the remainder. So I didn't actually see the other panels as they went around, but I'm sure the other 3 people that was interviewing alongside me probably had to walk through these other areas. But I was right in the first area. So they put you just sitting in a chair just by yourself, and then they face you, all 3 of them. And they're just sitting at a table, and they're firing off questions. Normally, based on what I understand, it's usually 2 former jets and then a Japanese native. I don't know who the third guy was, but there was a woman who was the former jet. Then, as I mentioned, the Japanese man. But then there was another guy, and I guess he was not a former jet, because when they asked at the end, if I had any questions, I directed them at those 2, assuming they were both former jets. And he piped up and said, "Oh, nope, I'm not a former jet." And I was like, "Oh, okay." But yeah, that was it. I mean, the interview itself probably took about 20-25 minutes, maybe. They allot you about a half an hour. So I think that's more or less if it just ends up going a little bit long. And anyone who's listened to the show or watched any of these videos knows that I can get long-winded, of course. But I made it a point to stop myself from rambling when I was answering the questions that they had, which I don't know if that's going to put a negative spin on how things went. But I was just trying to keep things short. Maybe that'll work to my benefit, maybe not. But you know, it's essentially, we're just kind of asking questions like what kind of person you were going to be and how you were going to handle the job. Nothing crazy. They didn't make me do a mock lesson, but I heard some of the other individuals that interviewed before me. At least one of them said something about having to do a mock lesson. But I don't know if that has anything to do with those that specifically put on their application that they have teaching experience. And I know at least one guy that interviewed alongside me did a year in China, teaching English there. And so now this was like the next step for him. So I'm not sure if maybe he had to do a mock lesson or not. But I think because I didn't have any prior teaching experience outside of whatever I did for my TEFL certification, they did not require one. Or maybe I just got lucky and they just didn't ask. I'm not sure. But all in all, it was mostly just a lot of waiting today. Because I made it an early day. Like I said, I got up at 7:30 this morning, and my first bus down to Chicago didn't leave till 11:30. So I made sure that I had enough time to get ready, and you know, I even bought a new shirt. It's not the greatest shirt in the world, but yeah, it worked. But I wanted to make sure I had enough time to make myself as presentable as possible. Looking at how I'm set up here, I probably should have gotten a haircut, but I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see. I was worried that the beard was going to be a detractor, but when I got there was at least two other guys that had beards. So I'm guessing that they are aware that individuals might have, or at least the men will have facial hair. Because I was actually planning on opening the interview by saying, you know, please disregard the beard. I did my research and I know that I would likely be required to shave once I went over to Jet. And I mean, that's still true. You know, I have already shopped for an electric shaver that's on my Amazon wish list. So if the day comes that I find out that I'm finally going to Japan, then that'll be one of the first things that I buy to prepare myself. Now going forward, we're just back to waiting. I did a lot of waiting today. I showed up at the building. My interview was not until 4:30 in the afternoon, and I must have gotten in the room or the lobby area about 2:00. So, and that was it was probably closer to 3. Because when I arrived in Chicago, I walked to a little coffee shop for a recharge, and I sat there probably for a good 20 minutes, which was funny because I probably looked like an idiot, in the coffee shop or on the bus or whatever. Cause I was so focused on just thinking about everything having to do with the interview that I probably just looked like a dumbass, staring off into space or staring at a wall or whatever. But yeah, not much I can do about that now. But yeah, I got there probably at least 3:00 because I had to sit and wait through, 2 other sets of people to go to their interviews and then hear the aftermath as well. But then once it was done, then we were free to go. So then I wandered around. I did a couple laps around this one block because I was trying to look for this place to grab a bite to eat. And it was just this little tiny Japanese restaurant. It's called Friends Sushi, which I think is kind of a strange name, but had a nice udon bowl with some tempura, because I figured Japanese food would be fitting for a conclusion to the Jet interview. So yeah, all the waiting is done now. Well, just to lead into more waiting. As far as results go, they told me I would receive a letter. And unfortunately, the letter will arrive regardless of whether I was accepted or not. So I can't necessarily get my hopes up if when I see a letter in the mail for me. At least that's what they implied, that it was snail mail. I could be wrong on that, but they told me that there was going to be a letter and it was going to let me know whether or not I got in. So even if I see a letter, I can't get all worked up about it, because the contents might still say that I was not accepted. And I believe one other possibility is, besides being accepted or not accepted, is that they can also list you as an alternate, which if you're listed as an alternate, that doesn't mean that the game is over necessarily, because then you're put on a list, and if someone else that was selected backs out, then you would take their place. So I remember seeing this one video of some girl that got in last year, and she was listed as an alternate, and she heard then a week later, after being notified of that she was moved up on the list to actually go to Japan. So, even if as long as I'm either listed as accepted or an alternate, there's still hope to go through the JET program, but I very well could not be accepted at all. I mean, to be honest, I'm thinking what everyone else is thinking right now, in that I bombed the interview. I did absolutely horrible and screwed up, all my Japanese, and just basically made an ass of myself. But we have to wait to find out on that. And they said the time frame around when I will get the notice as to whether or not I was accepted will be around April. They didn't give a specific date, but my understanding is it's usually the first or second week of April. So the funny thing is that that's right around MGC time also, which if you've followed the show, you know that MGC is the gaming convention that I like going to. And for all intents and purposes, this could be my last one. So it would really be something else to be able to go to MGC and tell all my friends that I got accepted into the JET program and that I'm going to Japan later in the year. But as you can imagine, I'm trying not to think about that kind of stuff, just because I don't want to get my hopes up. At least the wait for finding out if I got the interview or not was easier, because after I turned everything in, then it was just a matter of taking care of other things, because I still had classes to finish. So all that schoolwork and what I was doing on my Twitch channel was keeping me occupied in that time. And then after I graduated and things kind of settled down on that front was right around the time that I got notified that I got the interview. So like that was almost nothing as far as waiting. But this 2 months I'm gonna feel it. But I'm gonna do my best to, keep myself occupied and not try my best not to think about it. But yeah, that's really all I got. I know this was kind of a haphazard video, and I'm sorry for the length. I can see it's already pushing 25 minutes, so sorry for the rambling. But I apologize if you're not getting what you were hoping to out of this video related to the interview itself. Just because, like I said, I don't want to risk anything. I'm not saying that people are going to be monitoring my, the road to Japan or anything like that, but I don't want to take any chances. The last thing I need is to get this far and then find out that some stupid little thing that I talked about on a video is what disqualified me. So we're gonna leave it there. There's not really much else to mention at this point. I will do a video if I get a physical letter, then I will make a video where I literally just open it up and read it to you guys live, so to speak. Or at least you will see me read it for the first time. And yeah, you might see some emotions flare up depending on what it says. And then if I am accepted, there'll definitely be more videos after that as well, because then we're going to switch over into preparation mode. Even if I don't get accepted, there's still plenty of plan Bs that I can enact at that point. I'm not starting any of them right now because I mean, Jet's my top wish for going to Japan. So I don't really want to create conflict with applying to all these other positions or something, and perhaps even obligate myself to something and then find out I could have gotten into Jet instead. So if I find out that I didn't get into Jet, then at that time, then I'll start looking into other options as far as where to go, what to do for work, and things of that nature. So there will be more videos going forward. It's just a matter of when, but the next video you can expect will definitely be around April. I don't know exactly when that will be, but keep your eye on the YouTube channel. As you already know, the website is gone, so there's no more podcasts. This is pretty much all that's left. But there'll still be more content coming. I apologize for the fact that I didn't really do anything for the last 8 to 10 months. But I was just really focused on finishing that degree. So now that's done, so I can kind of work towards doing this kind of stuff. But if you want, follow the Twitch channel that I have, twitch.tv/project2501, spell that with a K. And you can come see me roughly every week, play some games and stuff. So if you're into that, by all means, check it out. I'll even put a link in the description for this video if you are so interested. But for now, that's going to do it for me. I think I've talked long enough. So thank you, as always, for listening to my rambling. And I will catch you guys next time. Minasan, ganbatte.